going into this, and then how did it live up or exceed your expectations? This huge reunion.
You know, we went into it knowing that it was going to be special because Michael and I really wanted to work together. What it was going to turn into, or if everything that we hoped was going to be sort of done, we kind of had to trust. It's a game of trust in a way. And funny enough, ironically, the entire season one became a journey into a relationship that explored trust and honesty. So, very much what we were living in our life and trying to trust and see where this was going to go was also happening within the relationship of Tony and Ziva.
Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
I have to say that I admire that all of the women in the show, not just Diva, are totally badass.
Oh my God, you could say that again.
I mean, even
Fruji. Yeah.
Who seems, like,
But she's really smart.
but she's very smart
Very
and
smart.
she's badass in her own way.
Yeah.
Did you have something to do with that?
Very little as far as sort of writing characters and stuff. I know we were a part of the casting process, and I remember when episode 6 came out, which was the big Tali and Sophie episode in the safe house. I remember calling Lara Rossi, who plays Sophie, and just being like, my God, you were so good. And it was so grounded. Like her performance was so grounded. There was nothing about it that was pushed. I felt also there was like this moment, and I said, where do we know each other from? Like, I'd love to be able to explore, like, how come you're so loyal to her? How come you would do anything for her daughter? Like, I started questioning things about loyalty. Like, what is loyalty and what does it mean to you? And why are you loyal? Like, what did I do to earn that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there were all of these questions that were going on from a sort of storyline, but they were being informed and brought forth by performance. So Lara and her performance made me question, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on here? Like, why are they friends? Like, what is this loyalty about? But it starts with that performance and with that heart and with that grounding that I'm talking about. She was just terrific. Also, Isla knocked it out of the park. She was so, 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 so good. But it was a heavy Isla, Lara show. And I felt that it was the first time we departed from Tony and Ziva. We went into these characters and explored outside of the familiar dynamic. And I felt it was a complete hit. In fact, it was a fan favorite show.
What was it like coming back to playing Ziva?
Awesome. There's not a lot of actresses in the world that get to go back and revisit a character that is 1, beloved, 2, kick-ass, 3, very strong, and has gone through a lot in life. So the idea that she kind of keeps encountering these really challenging circumstances and then keeps getting up and fighting, and it's inspiring to me, but I also feel like there's a lot of women that come up to me and they respond to the character and they respond to the very thing that I respond to. So I try to honor her in the best way I can.
There's a powerful moment in episode 8 where Ziva gets to use the tools she learned in therapy to ground herself and continue on. I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about being so intentional with the mental health aspect of that.
The mental health aspect was brought forth by John McNamara. They felt that it was very important for us to understand where she was at, the sacrifices that she had made, giving her daughter away and all of that, and how that affected her, and also how that immediately affected her ability to be able to connect to the love of her life. And so you needed to go into it in order to have a payoff. You need to go into it in order to understand that she has been doing a lot of work to get to a place where she can be honest with herself and also recognize maybe Tony's not being so honest, or maybe there's something missing here. What are we missing? Can we move on? Can we be together? So I thought it was very cleverly done. And I'm not responsible for that. That's a team of writers that were very, involved in trying to make that work.
Speaking of which, what is John like as a collaborator? John McIntosh.
John is he's such a funny, brilliant man. What I love about him is that he thinks of something and then he elevates it, Never in a million years did we think that the show would look the way it looks, that we would explore heavily all of the emotional stuff that we got a chance to explore, that he would want to explore who Tali is. I mean, and it's the weirdest and most beautiful thing in the world because she is so much Tony and Ziva. She really is like the perfect casting, like not only physically, but like emotionally. What you guys don't know is that Tali, Isla Guy, the actor that plays Tali, she comes from the theater, but she's also a gymnast. So she actually loves action sequences and she wants to twirl and do all sorts of crazy things. For insurance reasons, we can't allow her, but she is like game on. I mean, she's so much Siva's daughter, it's crazy. So I kind of kept on looking up at the universe and going, really? Like, you sent us this? Like, this is perfect. Thank you. You know what I mean? Like, it just kind of aligned with the vision. She was the perfect person to play the part.
I know that Tony and Ziva have on the show, speaking of Tali, um, expressed an interest, like they don't want to do what their parents did.
Yes.
But with everything that's happened, will we see Tony and Ziva start to consider that maybe they need to teach her some things, they maybe need to train her? I know she's done doing the karate, but that maybe they need to
I think that's something that we've talked about potentially exploring if we get to go further. I think Ziva comes from a place of extreme paranoia. I think that paranoia will feed um, into the teaching that you're talking about, but I think it's going to come from a proactive place, not a place of fear. So I think it's going to be a very proactive, empowering thing that she just wants her daughter to be as prepared as she can be for any kind of thing that may come her way. I don't think Tony, as a father, would allow talking about like potential scenarios that this daughter could encounter because I think he's right into not bringing a child up in a world of absolute fear, you know what I mean? Which is where Ziva comes from. Ziva's reactive and Ziva also, she's trained in all of that, but there's a veil of don't reveal, don't show, don't anything, because it can all be interpreted as something. They can read you. The less they read, the better, you know? So I think this kid is definitely a mix of both. I think she'll have dad's wits, and I think she'll be ready because mom's paranoia will feed into that.
So Tony and Ziva have always had a great dynamic. How was it easy getting back into that dynamic for the show?
Yes, it's something Michael and I talk about all the time. There is something that happens when he and I are on camera, and sometimes off camera it used to happen too. We just die laughing, or we just have this thing. So I don't like to really mess with it. I don't like to question it. I just kind of respect it for what it is. It's a kind of magical thing. It may not happen always. I know plenty of actors that have like really good chemistry with one person and they want to work with that one person, and you have these great dynamics on screen, Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn and, Elizabeth Taylor. And yeah, I mean, there's just all of these wonderful partnerships. And I'm not going to say like Michael and I have that, but we have a modern version of whatever that may be, which is something that we respect and we love and we treasure and we don't mess with. It just is what it is.
Awesome, thank you. I am also so sorry. I have to catch another.
Please,
I'm
go,
so
go, go,
sorry.
go, go.
Thank you so much.
You got it.
I think once I started getting into like this space in this world, I'm Latina, so I'm almost looking for the Latina.
Sure.
And someone told me, they were like, Cote, that's a Latina right there, Chilena. So I wanted to ask you, you spoke a little Spanish in this. How was it? Like, digging into that a little bit. Like,
Funny enough, the character, as you know, is Israeli. So she speaks Hebrew, but then she speaks 8 languages that we know of. I mean, it could be more because I feel like every other year they give her another one. And I'm like, oh my
I
God,
can handle that.
please, that's a lot. But so she does speak Spanish. We've established that because in the mothership she spoke Spanish. I just think it's so cool to be able to. I was born in South America. I came to the States when I was 10, and I dreamt of playing all sorts of roles. And the idea that I'm able to play a quintessential, like, woman who is a badass and different from my culture. And it's just so cool. It's so wonderful. And I treat that with so much respect. Also, the character was never written to be an Israeli woman. I'm not sure if you know this, but it was a generic Czechoslovakian agent when I auditioned. So it was really funny because my first audition was a completely different thing. And so I came in and I did what I did. And then when I went back for the actual test, where I had my infamous test with Weatherly, they had switched and they had changed the character into an Israeli Mossad, ex-Mossad agent. And that was kind of a, wait a minute, what are we doing here? And of course, I just latched onto whatever information I had, and I did the best I could, and that's the end of it. But isn't it funny how it went from something, and then it shifted, and then it morphed, and then it ended up where it ended up? So I feel very lucky that I have had the pleasure of playing this character.
Thank you. I like that. Anytime I see Latinos in spaces where we're not defined by being Latino, we're just characters. We're just playing
Yeah.
someone. So it's really great.
I love that the show is at Comic Con. And I think that's because it has such an amazing fan base. Can you talk a little bit about like just how were welcomed back into this character by the fandom?
Well, I don't think we'd be doing the show if it wasn't for the fans. You know, I think the show picked up such a great fandom, and it wasn't so much in the United States. Here it was huge. That needs to be acknowledged. But Michael and I did a lot of independent traveling. I would travel every summer, and I would take like a little backpack and sometimes my juicer and then like a bikini and like a towel. And I didn't travel with much, but I always encountered a lot of people who were so warm, such fans. They really just wanted to know, like, are they ever getting back together? What happened to Tony and Ziva, and where are they? And what happened to the little girl? And how are you as a mother? And is she very protective? And just so they had all of these questions. And I would come back and I would talk to Michael and I would say, hey, there's a lot of love, you know? Does it ever surprise you? And he was like, yes, I'm always like so pleasantly surprised by how people love these characters. And so if anything, you know, we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for the fans. And so to all the fans, thank you, because it's been a dream to play these roles again, and it's been a dream to give you the fantasy that you have somehow manifested.
Well, the NCIS subreddit uh, uh, fans asked me to tell you thank you
Oh,
for the show. Also, somebody had a question about what came first, the idea of the spinoff, or did it sort of grow from Tali? That Tony and Ziva have had a baby,
well,
and then it kind of like snowballed into people saying, no, we really want to see Tony and Ziva.
I think there was a mix of things. They obviously wanted to know what happened between them. Like, did they ever get together? Like, did they ever, like, because they never got to see that on camera. They never got to see these people sort of acknowledge their feelings for each other. So I think that was like a great big void, like a collective fandom void that had to somehow be answered. We had to give them that. But there was no way of giving them that without acknowledging that, like, the fruit of their love is this child. They have a child. And if anyone here is a father and a mother and a parent, they understand, like, the great big love and the great big responsibility that comes with that. So we felt, of course, we can tell the story of our love, but there is no way of telling that story without acknowledging the biggest thing that our love made, which was this beautiful child who is so much a part of both of us. So really, it's the exploration of two people that have conflicting feelings, that are trying to be honest and are trying to be truthful and are trying to defy all of these challenges that come up. But ultimately, it's a story about a family, and it's the story of a family trying to come together and be together and protect each other, and that's it. It's a story of family.
um, I think for my final question is, so this show is a lot about trust and how it's built, broken, and
Yes.
rebuilt. And I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about that when it comes to Tony and Ziva.
The idea that Ziva goes to therapy comes from the fact that obviously she's had a lot of things in life that have been very challenging. So she has to confront all of those ghosts, and she has to confront her PTSD and the things that obviously bring forth this horrible, paralyzing anxiety. I think the the challenges that she's had and the losses that she's had inform her inability to be able to at times make this relationship work with Tony. So by tackling all of the other stuff, all of the ghosts, by making peace with the demons, she's able to somehow bridge this emotional thing and be able to love somebody without the baggage. And I think the journey of that is beautifully explored. I think there's obviously more. Um, but as you know, it's relationships are kind of ongoing, and you can tackle these themes a lifetime. The idea of trusting someone, of earning trust, of what do you hold, what do you withhold, how do you bridge, how do you talk about things, how do you there's a certain discomfort in that level of vulnerability, that level of, and also loving someone so much, really like what Michael and I always talk about is that they're each other's better half, they're each other's but they're the love of their life,
Right.
so there was so much at stake with messing it up with, oh God, is it going to happen, is it not going to happen, can we make it, so many doubts, so I think that's the reality of a lot of people,
Yeah, it's
actually.
very relatable. Right?
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much. It was
ladies.